Now, if you clicked on this video, then you probably know what the CAGED system is. So I don't want to go into depth here today, re-explaining what you already know. But I want to show you ways how you can get more out of your CAGED knowledge and start playing with more melody and more intuitive weaving through the fretboard with a different technique that latches on to the CAGED system but goes beyond that. The advantage of my approach is also that if you go down that route, you will start to learn all the notes that you're actually playing, learn and understand all the intervals that are in those CAGED shapes, and start playing with a more musical approach that is not stuck in any type of scale boxes or chordal boxes, but instead just plays the notes as you hear them in your head. But why should you be listening to me? My name is Ulrich Ellison. I've been a pro guitarist for 25 plus years, and during the pandemic of 2020, I founded Total Guitar Transformation with the mission to help aspiring guitarists of all backgrounds and ages, that includes hobbyists and professionals, to help them unleash their full potential as guitarists and start playing with more musicality. So if that's the reason that you are here, then you've come to the right place. And today I want to talk about this topic that is also a little bit controversial, because it seems like that a term like cage immediately draws haters and fans alike. And then there's this wild discussions if the CAGED system is any good, if you need it, blah, blah, blah. So I really don't want to get into that today, but I want to kind of build on the foundations of the CAGED system, explain to you really quickly what it is from my perspective, and then just go beyond CAGED by breaking down the smaller units, looking at the individual notes that are actually in there, and then latching on to this highly melodic style that I call the Hendrix Chordal style. Awesome. So let's get right started here with an example. I'm just going to put on a C drone and we're going to look at the CAGED shapes in the key of C. Let's go. So here is our C major CAGED shape. This is just a regular open C chord, right? Then we got an A CAGED shape, also in C. Then we got our G CAGED shape in the key of C. Then we got our E shape here on the 8th fret. And then we got our D shape. And notice how the D shape is really like very similar to the C shape. It's basically just a different low note. Yeah? Alright, so let's talk about this real quick. So you see that these shapes, they go over the whole fretboard, so that's cool. You know, you really capture all the notes that are in there. So what's the idea of CAGED? The idea is very simple. You know, we're assuming that you already know your campfire chords. And now the next step is to find all the chord shapes over all the fretboard. Realize that you're not just stuck down there with the open strings, but you can play any chord all over the fretboard. So that's a very good thought. I'm totally for that. And so we move these shapes around that you already know. You just move them to the right places and then you find the right notes. Yeah? It's great, yeah? So what would happen if I play a solo, let's say in the key of C, and I just want to follow the CAGED shapes, yeah? What would that sound like, yeah? Let's give it a try. I mean, you can give it a try at home as well, but it probably sounds something like this. And I'm already adding some notes here. So that sounds great. You know, it's a great start to be able to find all the notes. It's very cool, yeah. I have to say though, that this solo sounds a little bit technical, right? It sounds more like a technical exercise. It sounds less than an actual musical solo. Now you could say, okay, Ulrich, all you have to do is throw in some additional licks. Just throw in some blues licks. And then add in the CAGED system. It needs to be combined with actual blues licks. And I would say like, okay, fair enough, but to me it still sounds constructed. Yeah? All right, so let's move a step further then, yeah? Shall we? So I think, you know, once you learn the CAGED shapes, the next step should be that you should really start to learn which notes you're actually playing here. Yeah? Let's look at this C chord here. So we only got 3 notes in a C major triad. We got the root note, that's a C. We got the third, that would be an E, it's a major third. And then we got the 5th, which is the G. So what would happen if we take those 3 notes and we just rotate them through in the order? You know, we got 3 notes, so we get C, E, G, then we got E, G, C, and then we got G, C, E. Yeah, I said it right. So let me play that, yeah? And I'm just gonna stay on the same string pair here. And then we would reach the octave here again, yeah? The same shape as here. Now those are the inversions of the C major triad. That's that simple. Now if we do this on all the string combinations, then we get this, yeah? We do this. And then we can do it on the high strings. Now we just played all the notes of C major. I didn't do it the lowest string set. But yeah, let's do that too. No excuses. So now we had all the notes of C major. We played all the notes that we did with the CAGED system, but there's one big difference. The difference is that now we actually know which notes are we playing. We're not just playing a bulky shape with some note doublings that we don't know really what's going on, but we're playing very specifically the actual notes of the chords. So we play C, E, G, and then E, C, E, G, C. Then. So that is already a big step forward, yeah? Because now we're specifically playing notes. I want to take it one other step forward here. Yeah? Let's say we have a chord progression. Yeah? Let's say we have C major to B flat to F back to C, right? So with the CAGED system, we might improvise something like this. Or something like that, you know, that already you might say like, okay, this is, you know, if I can play like this, I'm already pretty happy. That's great. Yeah? And actually, I made a little mistake here. I snuck in a little fragment of what is so built into my system, I can almost not get rid of it. Yeah. What I'm talking about here is the Hendrix chordal approach. If you are a guest here on my channel, or maybe even have my Hendrix chordal soloing course, then of course you know what I'm talking about here. But for those of you who hear this for the very first time, let me just give you a demonstration of what an improvisation would sound over this chord progression with the Hendrix chordal style. Yeah? would sound like this. I'm gonna put on the drone so you can really hear what's going on. Here we go. C. Yeah. Awesome. So, first of all, before we go into any theory discussion, the question is, did you like what you heard here? Did that feel good to you? Or maybe you didn't like it, yeah? That should be the first question. Is like, okay, which sound do you like? Did you like that caged improvisation, like emotionally, yeah? Or did you like that chordal style improvisation? And keep in mind that on both of them, I was just demonstrating the concept. Yeah? I wasn't really trying to play like a musical solo. Yeah? Because if you do a musical solo, then anything goes. You can always make up cool stuff. Yeah. So, what is that Hendrix chordal style? The Hendrix chordal style is basically leaning onto something that just Hendrix would do a lot, coming from the US and coming from this kind of soul R&B influenced, Nashville territory, basically, because Hendrix lived in Nashville for a few years. So if you just take one lick, you can just take this lick, yeah? I call this the Hendrix chordal lick archetype, yeah? Then we see that this lick actually outlines the C major chord. We're just ornamenting it with 2 extra notes. And we're playing it with double stops, yeah? So that's already rhythmically makes a difference. So then what we do is we just find this Hendrix chordal lick in all the positions on the fretboard. So here, here, here. And guess what happens? We're actually finding all the caged positions, yeah? But we have a completely different outlook by just playing the same lick in different places on the fretboard, yeah? So what do you think, what is more useful musically speaking? Is it more useful to know shapes that you can move around? Or is it more useful to be able to play the same melody or the same musical idea in different places on the fretboard? Just think about it for a second. Yeah? I would argue that the connection to the musical idea has more value. Because if you play a musical idea, there's going to be more options than even just the shape. Because, if we had the caged shape, let's say we have like, these 3 notes, we could also play, we could also play, we could play, there's just so many ways to even play the same 3 notes can have so many different fingerings. Yeah? So knowing the notes is a big advantage, and being able to play the same idea in different regions in the fretboard is a big advantage. Yeah? So we're moving beyond caged system now. Yeah? So besides that, what is the big advantage of the Hendrix chordal style? If we said like, okay, let's use that Hendrix chordal style to orientate ourselves on the fretboard, yeah? Because we have like the triad shapes now here. We got one chordal lick here. We got one chordal lick here. That's the next triad inversion. And then we got this triad inversion. We can another chordal lick here. If we can just cover, basically ornament the 3 triad inversions, then we have all the notes, right, that we need. And we have some cool musical ideas that we can already work with. That's the difference. Like this chordal style basically is already a musical concept. It's not just a fretboard orientation, it's actually a stylistic element. That is the big difference to me. And that's why I like to teach this chordal style concept to my students and tell them, like, even if you just play the plain chordal style lick, it's already gonna sound pretty good. If you have a nice touch and have good rhythmical phrasing, it's gonna sound pretty nice. And then you mix it maybe with a few sixth intervals, and before you know it, you'll be dancing. Yes, so I'm almost at the end here of this little presentation. I just want to make the connection here one more time for those of you who might not be clear. What is the connection, Ulrich, between CAGED and the Hendrix chordal style? So let me get that crystal clear one more time. I'm gonna make an A-B comparison between the CAGED shape, C CAGED shape, the triad, C triad, and the chordal style. So it's just playing a lick inside of that shape. Then here, A shape, CAGED shape, in key of C. Triad, that would be just my triad notes. Here would be my chordal style. Yes? Then we have our G shape. And then here, we have a triad, would be, it's a little spread out, so I could play, maybe this would be the triad, or also this one. Because, here's the thing, this CAGED shape, the A shape and the G shape, it's the same shape really, it just starts in different regions here on the low frets. So if I play the chordal style lick, it's the same lick, it's just the ending note is different on the G shape. So those are very related. The A shape and the G shape are very related in the CAGED system. All right, here, E shape. Here you got the triad. Here you got the chordal style lick. Great. So now D shape, CAGED shape, triad, chord lick. So same thing here. It's very related to the C shape, the D shape. It's just different starting note. The other one comes from lower fret, the other one comes from the A string on the higher fret. You see the similarity here? So let's just go and connect all the chordal lick shapes. Now I just want to show you how I can connect now all the shapes in a very musical way that already sounds like a pretty cool improvisation. Check it out. You see how cool it is? It's so organic and so effortless, really. It's just really fun to play. Once you played around with it a little bit, if you just think of the CAGED system, you're not gonna play those things. That's the thing, like in theory, it fits with the CAGED system, but in practical reality, you're gonna be in a different mindset and you're not gonna play those things. That is just my very practical approach. If I could get you interested into the Hendrix chordal style, then I want to invite you to check out down here first my Hendrix chordal soloing guide, and if you want to go deeper, then just get my Hendrix soloing course. That's going to be on the second page. Once you sign up for the soloing guide, you have an option to get the soloing course for 50% discount today. In that sense, keep on rocking and keep on studying guitar and pushing your expression to new heights. I'm your biggest fan. See you soon.